What's poppin', mi gente? Your boy's back with another video. Feliz Navidad, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I actually wanted to put this video up on Christmas Day, which I know normally I usually put something up around this time, but I was too busy partying with the fam, so without further ado, here are the responses to the questions I had submitted in my previous submitted question video. These are going to be done in no particular order. I'm going to mix them up between the questions I got on YouTube and the ones I got from Patreon supporters. So let's dive right in. The first question I got, and I thought this was a particularly good question, is how I was going to handle speedrunners and glitches. Speedrunning is something that I've been aware of the community for a long time. I'm talking when it was in its infancy. I used to check it out, and at the time I thought it was kind of a gimmick thing that would fade away, but over time it has really expanded and become quite gargantuan. So much so that it's now mainstream, and I enjoy watching the videos myself. So I'm all for people speedrunning my game. Am I going to put in some features directly geared towards it? Well, maybe. Once we're late in development, I'd consider it if I get enough requests. As for glitches, well, the shorter answer is if I find a glitch, I get rid of a glitch, and it's that simple. Doesn't matter who's using it. The exception would be if, for example, it was a glitch that I found felt more like a feature. Similar to what happened in Dead Cells as an example, where they had a shield that you could move forward with, but by roll canceling, you would suddenly burst forward a lot more. But people were using that to go between shield and roll cancel and travel ultra fast. So what did they do? They modified the shield to move forward more, and then modified it so you couldn't so much use that glitch anymore to go through the game super fast. And it's now a normal feature, but it's balanced out. Now something like that, I'd be more than happy to do. Next question. How custom will the game be, basically? In other words, how much this is going to be original content versus how much do I intend to add? And I can't really elaborate on this too much because it's too expansive a question. But it suffices to say that I am including all of the custom content, but I'm making a lot of changes to the gameplay to make it faster, more difficult, and a lot more exciting. With a lot more variety as well, and a lot more replayability. For example, instead of the weapons for Alucard just all being upgrades, they're going to actually do different things, have different quirks, and you'll have different builds you can set up between your armor, your relics, your weapons, your techniques, etc. So that the gameplay is a lot more unique and there's a lot more replayability. As for the difficulty, because this was a question I got specifically asked, I'm shooting for a Castlevania 3 level of difficulty, but I too want to put in multiple difficulty modes that change in a manner that is similar to, excuse me, Devil May Cry. In that the enemy placement's different, enemy AI is a bit different, bosses have new attacks, things like that, versus it just being like the DS-Vanias where, oh look at that, I ran into a bat and it took 2/3 of my health, and look, the bat's speed has been doubled. I don't like that. I think that's a very lame way of increasing difficulty, and that's an issue I definitely had with the DS-Vanias, that the difficulty increase was just shit. It was obviously very rushed, and the same goes for Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. It's a joke the way the difficulty was done. It's very unbalanced. I'm not planning on doing a half job like that. Next question I want to cover, and that is, what previous mods or games have I created? I've created a number of mods actually, but they're mostly mods that I keep around for my own personal use. Case in point, I created one for Smash TV where I hacked into the game and modified a value so you'd always have the boots that gave you extra speed. Or I was hacking Strider 2 and I managed to make a lot of changes to that game to balance things out. Strider Hien, for example, in the home version was a fully balanced character, and it was easy to do by simply decreasing his damage ever so slightly. I was also modding Gauntlet Dark Legacy on the, I believe that was the PS2 for a little bit, but again, these aren't mods that you're ever going to see out there, and I wasn't modding the original Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the PlayStation 1 long ago. But again, these are never going to be publicly released and were kind of for my own enjoyment. I haven't created any other games. This is actually my very first game that I'm programming from scratch, which actually leads into another question, and that's kind of, why in the world is he wasting his time modding a game instead of just programming his own game and getting paid for it? Well, the answer's simple. This is my first time doing this. It's a learning experience. I mean, when I first started messing around with the hack, I was just modifying values in the PlayStation version of it using a cheat engine. And then I graduated to using an application called MemHack to go ahead and actually hack values in the game and inject code in. And then when that was progressing ultra slowly, I decided, you know what? Let's go ham here. Let's go hard as a motherfucker. Let me try actually programming the engine from scratch to see how hard it is. And I was using GameMaker for that. But GameMaker, sadly, wasn't progressing very well and was still very limited in its functionality. So I had to move on to Unity, which was a hell of a steep learning curve. But I have learned so much here, it's ridiculous. I spent about a year to 2 years just messing around in Unity, creating various little games just to get used to it and get acclimated to the system. You know, keep in mind too, peoples, when I first started this project long ago, I was younger and I was still going out and partying. This wasn't a priority. You know, this project, since I've opened the Patreon page about 3 years ago, has become a major priority, and progress has been smooth and constant ever since. I've also learned a lot more because of that. You know, on top of that, I've taken some courses online from a site like Udemy, for example, that's greatly helped to improve my coding skill. I just know so much more now than I would have a couple of years ago. If I had just started to create my own game at that point, my own commercially available game, it would have been an absolute failure. It would have been a glitchy, buggy, unprofitable mess. You guys have to keep in mind too, you do have to spend money to get your game out there. You have to advertise. I need to pay for artists that are going to work full-time for me. I need to pay for sound people that are going to work full-time for me. And that's all an expense that I would not want to spend that kind of money only for me to be coding the game and it to be an abysmal failure. It would be a huge financial loss. So that's the reason why. That's exactly why I started off with a fan game, and I can then use what I learned here along with the assets and the coding I create and pass that on to something that I can potentially make commercially viable. Somebody asked, and this is related to the question I just covered, how many years I've worked on this for. I probably was hacking it in the PlayStation, the original PlayStation game, for about 3 years, and then I worked on it in GameMaker for probably about another 2 or 3 years, and now I've been working on it in Udemy. I've been working in Unity for about 5 years, 1.5 to 2 years of which was just learning, and the other 3 years is actually coding and seeing some smooth progress here. But again, when I first started messing around with this before the Patreon was open, it was just a hobby. I would sometimes take 6-month breaks. So, since the Patreon page is open, you guys can see for yourself, there's been nothing but constant updates for that reason. I feel if people are giving me money, they need to see a return on their investment, and that's fair to me. Next question I want to cover. I was asked if I was planning on using any music from other Castlevania games. The answer is yes. For those of you who are paying attention, you also might notice during this video that there are 2 new tracks in here. Those are tracks that I had custom made for the engine. So on top of those 2 new tracks, there's the original music along with music from other games that I plan to throw in as needed. That includes the Castlevania arcade games, because I feel like those are tracks nobody's gotten to hear, and a lot of them are, I mean, they're top tier, very high quality orchestral tracks, very well done stuff that I think everybody would appreciate. I've also considered putting something into the menu that allows you to select what track you'd like to play in a particular stage. But again, that's something that I'll be coding in far later in development, and it's not something we're going to need anytime soon. The next question I received, and this was obviously either a troll question or posted by an absolute fucking idiot, was, what do I think the sexiest demon is in Symphony of the Night? And my knee-jerk reaction was to say the Frozen Shade. Because, I mean, just look at the way she thrusts her hips as she fires out ice, or even as you kill her. She can obviously get on top of you and blow your fucking mind, but fucking her would probably be about as much fun as shoving your dick into a canister of liquid nitrogen. So that's going to be a hard pass for me. And then the second choice would have to be the Salem Witch, was the second thing that came to mind, because, I mean, look what she's wearing. Looks like that robe comes off with a string and she's butt-ass naked under it. So, I mean, shit, all I have to do is yank it off, find some hay, and dig into that cherry pie, and we're good to go. But I had to settle on my last choice, and this was the obvious choice to me, and that would be my baby girl, the Venus Weed, otherwise known as Allura Une. I mean, look at her. She's butt-ass naked in the plant. She's just asking for it. I mean, yeah, she got some pointy titties that look like they're barely a B cup, but I mean, that's fun right there. You just pick her up, throw her over your shoulder, carry her off, and dig in them guts, and that's all there is. No muss, no fuss. But no, in all seriously, whoever put this question up, goddamn, bruh, put down the drugs, homie. Seriously, get help. You have people that care about you, man. Leave the fucking drugs alone. Fuck. Next question, am I excited with how the project's turning out? What do you people think? I mean, every time I jump on these videos, I'm so hyped up, I lose track of how long the video is. I mean, I'm staring at the recording right now. It's on 10 minutes, and it feels like it's been 30 seconds. Yeah, I'm very hyped with the way things have turned out. With Unity being as upgraded as it is now, my knowledge being as upgraded as it is, I mean, the stars are the fucking limit. I can do what I want, how I want, and it's a great feeling. So yes, absolutely, I enjoy working on it all the time. An interesting question I received, and I believe this one was on YouTube, was will there be a way to switch between the original game and the upgraded version of the game? No. You have no idea what you're asking for there. You have no idea how involved that would be, and why would I want to do that? If you want to play the original game, go pull out the PlayStation. Go pull out your disc and throw it in and you're good to go. Or download the ISO online and play it via an emulator. I mean, that seems redundant to me. And as for making it so that you can play the original game but with all the new features, well then it's not the original game anymore, so it's redundant, isn't it? Even if I let you just use the new characters in the original game, it wouldn't work. There's no way that would work with how much things have been changed. So no, absolutely not. That'd just be an absolute waste of time. I still thought it was an interesting question though. Now, this next question I thought was an excellent one, and that's how often do you recreate something and then wonder how the hell did they do that? All the time. So you've got to remember, this game came out a long time ago. We're talking about 20 years ago. And it really is fascinating to see how they were so minimalistic and yet things came out so high quality. Like the pixel art in this game is so good that they were using it in the DSvanias for years afterwards. And guess what? Yes, the graphics stuck out like a sore thumb, but they stuck out because they were better than the newer graphics they were drawing. Now that says something when for 10 years you see the same sprites over and over, and all you can think to yourself is, damn, they stick out like a sore thumb, but they stick out because they're that damn good. I mean, so yeah, all the time I'm fascinated by it. I recently did the colored rings for when you're resistant to use a resist item, you know, resist fire, resist ice, or a potion, or a mana prism. And I put up a video of that, and I told you guys in that video, it took me a while to figure out what they did, but when I did, I was like, that is so minimalistic. It's just literally a black and white gradient mask. I mean, that's it. With some color, and it's just color shaded. And then there's a little scaling and rotation. I mean, it's brilliant in its minimalism. So yeah, all the time. And I'm even more fascinated when I manage to reproduce it. That's something I really get excited about. And I mean, really, really like hyped about it. So the next question that came up was one about how I plan to handle weapons, sub-weapons, and attacks. You know, if I was going to keep them the same, you know, what changes was I going to make? And this is a very elaborate question that came from a loyal Patreon supporter that unfortunately, as much as I'd like to cover it in detail, I can't, because we'd be here another 20-30 minutes. So I will say this. The attack system, I've shown videos. Actually, when I open the Patreon page, my topmost video, you can see the way the attacks are laid out. You don't just do the same normal attack anymore. He actually does a variety of attacks in a row, similar to Devil May Cry when you attack an enemy, or God of War, or Lords of Shadow. You know, it's not just the same attack over and over. It's a multitude of attacks that can be chained together, that can do different things like knock down an enemy, pop an enemy up in the air, etc. So I plan to make the combat more fleshed out like that and more modern, while still making it basic enough that you can blast through the game without it feeling like you're playing Diablo 3 and having to memorize 1001 quirks. I guess the best way to compare it to would be Dead Cells in this respect, in that each weapon is unique in its own way, and also has different combinations you can use, but a bit more advanced, in that you can pop up enemies, you can knock them back. The moves have each weapon has special moves that you can use to consume magic. For example, I give an Alucard his destruction orbs from Castlevania 3. And he actually has 3 different attacks to them that all come out one after another when you're attacking an enemy. With the third attack doing a little more damage, of course, doing the majority of the damage among the trio of attacks. And then at the same time, you simply hit up an attack to use his magic move, it's Hellfire, which is a full screen fireball attack that does burn damage, that does fire damage. It can also inflict burning. Another example would be where I showed off the swords that some of them can do a double-handed overhead chop, excuse me. That would be another magic consuming move, in addition to the normal attacks that he chains one after another. I'm not sure how to word that there. I just don't know the proper wording. Sub-weapon wise, well, I'm planning on giving sub-weapons cooldown, and if you use them while they're cooling down, they consume hearts. which will have a limited number of hearts, of course. But this way you can use sub-weapons a lot more frequently for burst damage while you're using your regular attacks to deal with the enemies, and their special moves to deal with those stronger enemies and chip away at them. That's the most detail I can really give right now without going on and on or without pulling up video examples, and this video would just get too complex, and we're already up to 15 minutes here. But this was an excellent question. Along with the next one of, will there be new stages and bosses? Absolutely. There are already a multitude of stages planned, and I already have the sprites done for Pazuzu and the Cyclops, which look through my Patreon post and you guys will see it there. So yes, this is a definite, along with new enemies being in there. A question came up on multi-language support, and this has come up a few times, and I've addressed it a few times. There are absolutely no plans to have multi-language support at this time. When I say that, I'm talking about voice clips. I still have to worry about getting voice clips in English for any new dialogue that comes up, and that's going to be a task in itself that's going to be not only difficult, but also expensive. So no, I have absolutely no plans to then have voice clips done in Japanese or French or German. Now as for the text itself, maybe if enough demand comes up and I get enough donations towards it, maybe down the line I can hire somebody to go ahead and do that for me. But that's late in development, and it's not something I'm going to worry about at the moment, because the fact is, when I put in multi-language voice clips in the original Game Maker version, almost nobody used it. A lot of people complained about they wanted it, but then when I put it out, maybe 3 people used it, so no. And yes, I will be sticking with the new dialogue. I won't be going with the old dialogue from the PlayStation. I'll be using the PSP's version of the dialogue because it's much more modern, better voice clips, and there's a lot more available. And no, it isn't up for debate. That's all there is to it. This is one of those things you guys gotta accept and move on with your lives. It's not that serious. Will I be doing custom skins? Was a question I received from a loyal Patreon supporter. And at this time, there's absolutely no plans to do that either. The reason is, to use Alucard as an example, he has about 800 sprites. If you wanted to do a custom skin, yes, I could put in skin support, but then you'd have to replace all 800 of those sprites. So no, there's just no plans for that at the moment. Maybe later on, again, if I get enough donations specifically towards that, and I would set something up separate so that, hey, donate towards this, and when it reaches this amount, I'm willing to do this, then I would do it. But without that, that's an absolute no, because it would definitely take a lot of effort and be a pricey thing to deal with. To get done, rather, excuse me. Next up, source code. Am I planning on releasing the source code? Eventually, once development has completely ended, but you're talking far down the line. But I would have no problem releasing the source code at that point. As I said before, this is not a commercial game. I'm not planning on making profit off of it, so I'm fine with that. If people want to do, about the time that I'm tired of working on it, people can then tear it apart, do whatever they want, and it's all good. This next question I thought was excellent, and that is, do I plan to port it over to other systems besides the PC? No, absolutely not. Doing it for the PC is complex enough. And by PC, I mean Unity will automatically make it compatible on the PC, Linux, and Mac all at once. I'm only testing it on a PC though, and that's all it's being designed for. It would take, I don't have a Linux-based system, and I don't have a Mac, and it would take far too much effort for me to learn those systems and then test the game on it. And it would take too much effort to rely on other people, because every time I ask somebody to bug test something, it just doesn't turn out good. That's a long story made very short without going on and on. So the answer is no, hell motherfuck no. Once again, once the source code comes out, if people want to go ahead and do this, they are more than welcome to, and I'll have no problem with that. Next up, I want to talk about an idea that I really liked, or a question that I really liked, and that is, are there any plans to put a randomizer into the game? At this time, no. But the code has been set up so that down the line that is something I can potentially implement, because I would like to. I would like to make it so there's some randomization in the stages. I've already set it up so there's some randomization in enemy placement. For example, with the Ouija tables. You walk in a room, there's 4 tables that look just like it, only one of those comes alive. Something small like that. But I would definitely like to make this game more like a roguelite. Something like Dead Cells, for example. Or Enter the Gungeon, where you walk in and every time the experience is different versus being static like something like Blasphemous or Hollow Knight or the old Symphony of the Night. But this is something that'll need to be done far down the line, but there's a lot of conceptual stuff that's been done for it, and there's a lot of stuff that's been set up with it in mind. But again, it all depends on the response I get to the initial releases. It all depends on the amount of donations I get, because that is going to be a costly endeavor. But I would absolutely have an interest in doing something like that. I think it would be fucking amazing and would definitely add to the replayability and shelf life of this game on a gargantuan and tremendous level. Next thing I want to mention is how many characters do I plan to put into the game? And this ties into the next question. I think I'm going to answer these two together. And that is, if I had unlimited money and unlimited time, what would I like to do with the engine? What would I like the end result to be? Well, first, I would love to upgrade all of the graphics to be more HD. While I love the pixel art, I would absolutely love some HD level pixel art. That would be something that I would definitely put on the top of the list if I had unlimited funds and unlimited time. I would absolutely love that. That includes the backgrounds. That includes, not even, maybe the backgrounds and the effects, and maybe just leave the classic enemies as the sprites they have now, but with a bit more detail. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe make the whole thing HD. I'd really have to look at it and see how it looks. I would love to greatly expand on the game to where I was constantly putting out a new map every month. I would definitely like to make it random. I would definitely like to put in 6 characters at least with full-fledged movesets. Definitely have all the music updated to modern standards, and they give you an option between the classic music and the new music. I mean, I would love to do all that stuff, but getting back down to reality, that's just not feasible. Time and effort and costs are all real factors to take into play. So while it's nice to fantasize, I'm not going to delve on that too long, because I can honestly sit here for another 5-10 minutes easily, but this video is going on 22 minutes here. It's getting a bit long. But talking about characters, because the question comes up all the time, what about Symphony of the Night, Richter, and Maria? And I have answered this question 100 times, so I'm going to be brief here. It depends on the donations I get. That's all there is to it. If I can get the funding, I would love to not just put those 2 in. I would love to put in several more characters based on past and popular Castlevania characters that have existed. I have enough conceptual info to easily do 7-8 characters here. I'm talking full movesets too. I'm not talking like in the original Symphony of the Night where we have a Rondo Richter and we have just Alucard has modern stuff. No, I'm talking Richter has a full modern moveset, his own special moves, his own weapons. Maria's the same thing. Playing each of them feels like a totally different experience. The stages are set up to account for those special moves with little differences here or there. You know, the enemy AIs are altered like that, and that's exactly what I want to do. But again, it all depends on the donations, because that's going to be a costly endeavor. It also depends on the responses I get to the initial releases, because obviously if people are complaining about the basic gameplay with Alucard, well, I need to tweak that and get that right first before I start worrying about putting in other characters. But I have definitely set the code up to be very, very modular and portable, so that if I want to create new characters, it's very, very easy to do. And last but not least, and this is the big question, when will it be ready? Whenever the fuck I say it is. Sorry folks, I've said the same thing since day one. It's ready when it's ready, and that's all there is to it. When I first started working on this, it was just a fan game. And it was being worked on at a time when I used to go out literally 5 days a week. There were points, during that point in my life, there were times where I did not touch this project for 6 months in a row. And then I would work on it for 3 or 4 months, then I'd start falling off again and work on it a tiny bit, and then I'd fall off another 6 months. That's not the case anymore, as I said earlier in the video. Since the Patreon page has been set up, progress has been constant, and I feel is a tremendous speed for a project that's primarily being worked on by one person. But I'm not giving any promises as to when it'll come out, because just like with the demo I just gave in my previous video, I discussed when I want to release a demo, and I gave a time frame of a couple of months. And sure enough, you know, they say tell God your plan so you can laugh in your face. And sure enough, this December, right after I put out that video, I spend a week busy with work, and immediately when I get free and start working on it again, I catch a nasty cold that makes me sick for 2 weeks. And now I'm getting over that cold, and here I am. It's the holidays, I'm celebrating with family. So now we have the holidays here. I'm going to be busy partying with family here. barely anything's going to get done this month, and look, now it's been pushed back another month. This is why I don't like to give deadlines, guys. Because I can't stand that when I'm looking forward to a game and I look and I see, okay, it's going to be released in this month. And then the month comes and I'm hyped and I'm so happy. And then the day comes and nothing. There hasn't been an update on the release in 2 or 3 weeks. What's going on? Has it been abandoned? Has it been pushed back? What's going on? Why won't anybody tell me anything? And then sure enough, a week or two later, you see the notification. The game's been pushed back 6 months. That is soul crushing when you're excited about something. And I don't want to do that to you guys. So I don't give release dates until I'm 100% certain that that it's coming out. I won't be giving any kind of date. You can stop asking, guys. You're wasting your time. And this is mostly going towards YouTube people, because rarely do Patreon supporters ask me this. Patreon supporters, if anything, tell me, you know what? Take your time, get it right, don't fuck it up. It's always the YouTube people and the random strangers who contribute nothing to the project that have this question. So it's ready when it's ready, peoples. You'll be alright. Alright, so that's it. This video is going to be about 26 minutes long. I wanted to cover some more questions because there are quite a few more. Maybe at some point in the next couple of months, I'll release another video with a few more answers. But I mean, honestly, I don't feel like most people want to sit here listening to me run my mouth like this. So I try to minimize these types of just blah 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 videos, as I call them, where I'm just sitting here talking, and try to keep it to strictly content. But you know, if your question didn't get answered, I apologize. Feel free to leave some feedback on YouTube, letting me know what you thought of this video. As usual, if you're not a Patreon supporter, go join right now and show your support, guys. You know, the more funds I get in, the more I can work on this. It's that simple. If you want to make a one-time donation, as always, the link will be down below for PayPal. If you want to join the forums, you're more than welcome to. If you want to join the Facebook group and talk to other like-minded Castlevania fans, everybody's welcome. Other than that, like the video, comment down below, and I guess I should tell you all to subscribe, but I'm not worried about that. Merry Christmas. I hope everybody's doing well out there. Hope you guys are getting to spend lots of time with your loved ones, your friends, or if you're one of those people that wants to be left alone, that you're enjoying whatever you do. If things aren't going so well for you right now, just keep in mind at all times, it's not a bad life. It's just a bad day, a bad week, or a bad month. Things will get better for you, and then believe me, these bad times will be nothing but a distant memory that you'll have to struggle to remember. Stay safe, stay happy out there. Deuces.